to emphasize that this presentation is not about one film. It's about what's happening on a daily basis to content creators, artists, filmmakers, musicians, authors, journalists, and more across the web every day, and the impact that piracy is having on content creation. With our film, in the beginning, it started out within 24 hours of our film's release. There were copies available online. And after a couple months, we basically gave up counting at about 35,000 download links and streams. And that doesn't even begin to include the various sites around the world, like China and the Middle East, where we couldn't track all the copies. And if you multiply each of those download links and streams by hundreds, if not thousands of downloads, you begin to see a pretty grim picture. The numbers for even a little indie film are pretty staggering. And that's not to say that every illegal stream and or download is a lost sale, of course not. But even if you take a fraction of those, it becomes fairly meaningful and fairly depressing. One day in May, I found a forum, and on that one day, 53 different people shared download links to our film. These are all discrete, different links and streams to find our film for free online. It begins to give you a perspective as to what's going on. Again, ours is just a little independent film. This is happening all over the internet with every type of content one can imagine. Now, why is this happening? Well, is it because our film is so popular? Obviously, I'd like to think so, and maybe that's part of it. But I think more significantly, it has to do with the fact that piracy has become so profitable. It's really about people wanting to make money. Online piracy has become a big black market business because the technology now enables full HD movies to be streamed online. It also enables fast, easy, and free downloads on anonymous CyberLocker, cloud-based storage websites. Technology enables pirates to earn a steady income with little overhead and essentially no risk. To me, that's the most significant aspect of all this. That's what motivates these folks to steal in the first place, the idea of earning some money. And technology provides a worldwide and willing customer base. Obviously, you can't have a successful business, even if it's an illegal one, if you don't have customers. Well, the internet certainly provides that. Now, how do pirates make money? This is where it gets, I think, even more disturbing. First of all, you have CyberLocker websites that basically earn money by charging would-be downloaders subscription fees for faster downloads. You can go to these sites and download a film for free or download a music file for free. But if you're in a hurry and want to do it quickly, you can also subscribe. So that's some money for them. Pirates also can make money by placing ads on websites. They steal a movie, in this case Wall Street, the Wall Street remake or whatever it's called. It's posted here online, and adjacent to that you'll see Google advertising. So obviously this pirate operator has a Google AdSense account, steals content, posts it, has the ad code embedded in the website, and hopefully folks will come to see the movie and they'll end up clicking on the ad and earn money, earn income for this pirate and for Google, I might add. And you see these ads as well on other CyberLocker sites. Here's an example of a download link to our film. And again, you see the ubiquitous Google ad placed right alongside. Google making money, the File Factory CyberLocker site is making money, and the creators are making nada. Let's look a little more closely at CyberLocker websites, because I think they have really transformed piracy in many ways. People don't have to go to the torrent sites anymore. They have these sort of one-stop shops where they can literally just click a link and download a file and nothing else need be done. So here's an example of a CyberLocker site that actually encourages folks to upload content and earn money by doing so. Now, when people upload to CyberLocker sites, the content is not vetted. There's no need to prove that you have copyright ownership of the material you're uploading. They sort of look the other way and obviously encourage people to upload illegal content because that's their bread and butter. The pirates make money by selling subscriptions for premium high-speed downloads and, as I mentioned in the previous slide, via ads. The most insidious thing about CyberLockers, in my opinion, is the fact that they do offer financial incentives to uploaders. Essentially, they're encouraging members of the public to become pirates. So what happens is essentially they say, okay, upload content to our website. And you can make money by sharing your links with friends, family, and guess what? Even strangers. So this isn't about creating a CyberLocker account to send large files to coworkers or photos to family members. This is explicitly encouraging people to upload files that they can share with everyone, including strangers. Now, they pay out basically based on how many downloads you can get of those files that you upload. So what you do is you upload a file to a CyberLocker site, and how are you going to get people to download it? Well, you go on the various online forums and you essentially advertise the fact that this link is available to download. Just to go back to that page I showed you earlier, I mentioned that 53 people on one single day had shared download links to our film. Well, the reason they're doing that is because they want to make money. So they share these download links on forums, advertise them, and hopefully get people to download them. And then for every 1,000 downloads, they get a chunk of change. In this case, 35 bucks. It's incentive to pirate. And cyberlockers are ubiquitous on the web now, and new ones seem to pop up every day. Here's an example. This graphic is from, I went to a website and clicked on a link to our film, and up popped this, which conveniently enough provides multiple mirrored sites, meaning the same file exists on every one of these cyberlocker sites. So if you click one and it's not working, you can click on another and conveniently find the download to our film. And as you can see, literally these cyberlocker sites are popping up all over the web, and they're popping up because they're very profitable for the operators. It's not hard to guess that most of the content that appears on all of these cyberlocker sites is stolen. Now, another aspect of piracy is the fact that, as I mentioned earlier, pirates can easily steal a movie and embed it and stream it online in its entirety. Here's an example of our film streamed in its entirety on a site called WiseVid. And again, in this instance, you see pirates are basically earning income because advertising is placed adjacent to the stream of our film. This particular advertising on this site is provided by Microsoft. Microsoft is not a huge player in the online ad business, and I gotta say, in terms of being responsive, Microsoft and I have actually been in contact. They seem to be working very diligently to try and remedy this situation by working on their technology and the algorithms that they use to service, to get these ads online, to make sure that they don't end up on sites like this. I can't say the same for Google, which is, obviously the market leader in all of this. Now, payment processors also offer an incentive and a means for pirates to basically earn income. PayPal, Visa, MasterCard, American Express, etc. make payment processing easy and anonymous. And it earns money for both the pirate website and the payment processors. Here's an example of a website that offers high quality downloads. It kind of tries to look legitimate and says create an account free. But of course, to create a free account, you have to cough up your credit card information and probably end up paying some money to this website. So in this instance, the pirate website folks make money, and so does the payment processor, Visa or MasterCard. Online pirate forums also share download links. These are maybe some of the free speech folks could say, this is a site where people are just sharing information. And again, if you sort of peel back the layers of the onion, you'll see that the sharing of information is also motivated by not altruism, but making money. Because even on these websites, you'll see that advertising plays a huge role in why these websites exist. Again, here's a Google advertisement pop up, and if you look at the source code behind the web page, you'll indeed find out that there is an AdSense account linked to this website. So the reason this website exists is not to do public service and share information about where you can steal and download films, but rather the operators of the website establish this forum to make money. Nothing more, nothing less. And again, Google profits from this as well. You click their ads, give them money, and they share with you. Now, ironically enough, it's not surprising, but the links that they share with you are on cyberlocker sites. So again, we have sort of this insidious web of interlocking pirates. Just to review, where does the money come from in piracy? It's a pretty straightforward equation. Advertisers pay ad service providers, who in turn pay the pirates to post the ads online. So the pirates make money, the ad providers make money, and the advertisers potentially gain a new client. Who doesn't make any money? The folks whose content was stolen. And when we look at this issue, let's look a little bit at the advertisers, because I don't think they're blameless in all of this. You have a situation where they contract with an ad servicer, i.e. AdSense, or there's plenty of others, AdBright, Microsoft, out there that provide online advertising. They contract with these ad service providers, and in turn the ad service provider offers up these ads on various websites. But the problem is, do the advertisers bear any responsibility with where their ads appear? Sometimes they like to say, well, we don't have any control over that. But in what other realm do the advertisers take such a backseat approach to where their ads appear? On magazines, they're very explicit about what editorial content would appear opposite their ads or adjacent to their ads. But online, it seems like a free-for-all, and they seem to avoid taking responsibility for their role in this. If you look here, these are just a few examples of Netflix ads on download links and or full streams of our film online. As you can see, it's not hard to find them. They're everywhere. And ironically enough, our film streams in its entirety online, and right next to that stream is a Netflix ad. You could ask the question, well, why would anyone want to pay Netflix for the right to see a movie when in fact you can watch it right there online for free? Seems kind of ironic. And it's hard to compete with free. And I have to say that I think Netflix, given the ubiquity of their ads online, could certainly do more to influence ad service providers such as Google to be more proactive in vetting websites before their ads are placed on them. Obviously, a lot of money is going from Netflix to Google, which in turn goes to these various pirate websites. So I believe these various parties should be held accountable in some fashion. If the advertisers don't care, should the ad service providers care? Well, again, why would they want to lower their profits? Why mess with success? Providing ads, online as they do, isn't illegal. And it may not be illegal yet, but I certainly believe it's immoral. And who, of course, is the biggest ad service provider in the world? Well, I've said it earlier, it's Google. And if you look specifically at Google's income over the last quarter for 2010, you'll note that $2.5 billion, or 30% of their total revenues, came from their ad revenues. And this was a 22% increase over the prior year. Now, obviously, a good part of this 2.5 billion are ads that appear on legitimate websites. However, even if you take a fraction of $2.5 billion, it's still significant. And one would have to think that Google, if it wasn't a significant amount of money, would be much more proactive in taking care of this issue. But they seem to do everything they can to avoid taking responsibility. And that makes me inclined to think that it's because they profit from it. AdSense ads on pirate websites around the world helped Google earn that $2.5 billion. And again, here are just some samples from around the world of our film posted on various websites in various languages. And the one commonality you see here is the fact that Google ads are on every single one of them. And this is just a drop in the bucket. Now, given all this, how can the creative artists protect their rights, protect their intellectual property? In the United States, the only option is a pretty ineffectual one. It's called the DMCA notice. If you're a content creator and you find your work online, your only real recourse, at least in the United States, is to send a DMCA notice. That DMCA stands for Digital Millennium Copyright Act. And the DMCA notice is sort of like being handed an umbrella, essentially, if you're a content creator, because it's kind of like being told to go take your umbrella and go stand under Niagara Falls Obviously not a very effective way to protect your content online. It's essentially spitting in the wind. We've sent thousands upon thousands of them, and yes, individually you can get links taken down, but given the volume of links that appear around the world, it's pretty impossible to keep up with that. The DMCA is essentially useless. And the other thing about it, it puts the onus on the content creators to prove copyright infringement rather than the other way around. One reason these cyber lockers are so successful and so profitable is because people can upload to them at will without any sort of vetting going on as to the legality of whether the uploader indeed has copyright to the material, which 9 times out of 10, the uploader does not. It's really backwards in terms of protecting individuals and their intellectual property. For one website, this is an example. This is a Spanish website, vocine.es, where our film is streamed. And I send a DMCA notice to the CyberLocker site. Actually, this is one of those examples where the stream is embedded on this website, but actual stream is hosted at another location, a CyberLocker site, Mega Upload in this case. I file a DMCA, Mega Upload removes it, and then a couple hours later, you go back to the website, and there's the film online yet again. And over checking this statistics recently on this particular site, there have been more than 65,000 views of the film on this particular website, or at least page views. I don't know if that obviously doesn't translate into people sitting there watching the film in its entirety, but still, one website, that's a fairly substantial amount. I found a site on a Chinese website where over 300,000 people had looked at that particular video, our film. It's a Spanish website, of course, and everyone knows that Spain is a country that routinely ignores copyright. But what about companies in the United States? Do they respect copyright law? I have to say no, essentially. Again, we filed numerous DMCA notices with Google because of the ubiquity of their ads on various pirated links to our film. How do they respond? Well, you generally get a little email that basically acknowledges receipt of your DMCA. Part of the email includes sort of this veiled threat that your DMCA notice will be forwarded to Chilling Effects. And in fact, here's a copy of one of our DMCA notices that was indeed published on chillingeffects.org. Now, chillingeffects.org is supposedly an organization concerned about protecting the First Amendment rights on the internet, which I think is a laudable goal. It encourages respect for intellectual property law while frowning on its misuse to chill legitimate activity. In my mind, the only thing being chilled here is an artist's right to make a living. Google sends off this threat that they will send your DMCA notice to Chilling Effects without ever even researching the legitimacy of your DMCA notice. And it seems like this is, again, a situation where they have it backwards. Google also bends over backward to avoid responsibility when it comes to the follow-up with these DMCA notices. Here's an example where we received an email saying that a counter notice had been filed to our DMCA, and Google sent along the counter notice, which, as you'll see, is in Chinese. Well, I don't happen to be fluent in Chinese, so I sent the counter notice off to a friend who is. She sent me back the translation, and if you look at it, essentially, it's not a counter notice. It has nothing to do with me having to go to court to file a counter notice of the counter notice. In fact, it's essentially a confession. I admit and declare that all posting searching results have been deleted and it will never happen again. So Google didn't even bother to read the counter notice before sending off this sort of, again, officious email saying that I would have to go to court if I wanted to proceed any further. And then so I sent this back to them, and this is the response they gave me. We believe the issue described in your complaint has been remedied. Well, not quite. Because if you go back to that same website, which is based in China, I immediately, with a few clicks of the mouse, found more copies of our film online and more Google ads. If you see in the right-hand column there's a bunch more copies of our film and thousands of other people's films. So Google is fine with this website maintaining its AdSense account. They do everything, well, essentially they don't do anything. They do everything they can to avoid taking responsibility. I sent them a note back regarding this and asked them how they could justify allowing this AdSense account to remain active. But of course, I'm still waiting to hear back, and I don't imagine I'll hear back from them anytime soon. And they, sometimes they urge you to give them a phone call, but for the record, they never answer the phone, and if voicemail does pick up, it's always full. So again, given the amount of money that Google makes, I would recommend that they maybe upgrade their voicemail system or hire a few people who can actually speak to those calling. It's interesting if you look at the terms of service for AdSense, though. They mention in one place, they mention this idea of illegal content as being against their terms of service. However, if you look further into that terms of service, they seem to be more concerned with their own copyright, because that's mentioned a couple times. So again, another irony. They'll protect their own copyrights more readily than they'll worry about anybody else's. Now, piracy's winners. First of all, the pirate website operators. They steal anything they want to, essentially, and there's no legal repercussions. They make money. The advertisers make money by gaining new clients. And the ad providers that service these websites and these advertisers also make money. The payment processors, again, also make money. Who are piracy's losers? Well, I'm sure you know by now. It's pretty obvious. The filmmakers, and not just filmmakers, of course, any content creators. My presentation is focused on filmmakers because I am a filmmaker, but musicians have borne the brunt of this for a long time. Authors now with ebooks, you name it, journalists, it's out there. It's out there for the taking. In our case, the actors, who we had no theatrical release, so money coming in on the back end was important to them to get additional pay for their work. The musicians, of course, and all those who work behind the scenes to make and distribute the film. Everyone suffers in the food chain except the pirates. And ironically enough, I think in a way it's really the consumers who lose out in the end as well. Because what's going to happen, and what is already starting to happen, the diversity of offerings, the diversity of content is going to be eroded by this ongoing theft. Yes, Hollywood will continue to make huge blockbusters that are sure money makers at the box office, etc. But, the indie filmmakers, the smaller artists, the indie bands, those people gradually will stop creating because it won't be financially practical to do so. Online piracy is undermining artists' ability to create quality art that can be enjoyed by all. And artists get into art because they enjoy the creative process and they enjoy sharing their work with the world. And it's not to say that they do it to become millionaires, of course not. But it is appropriate that artists be able to make a living from their work and to have other people be able to steal that work and make money off it and deprive the artists of that income. It basically doesn't seem fair. Now, what are the solutions? Well, if I knew that, I probably wouldn't be sitting here, but I can make a few observations with regard to this. First of all, quite obviously, there's no single solution. Piracy is never going to disappear entirely, and to pretend that it will be gone if we take certain steps is naive. However, I think we can make a huge dent in the problem. And first of all, we need to enact reasonable laws to protect copyright and enforce those laws. The legislation pending in Congress right now is, I think, a good first step. Obviously, people are concerned about due process and those sorts of things, but I think we can all come to the table and work out a solution that is practical and yet protects, legitimate content. It's not that hard, folks, and it's about time that the online world catch up with the brick and mortar world in terms of this. I mean, stuff that happens online would never be tolerated by most anyone if it were happening in the brick and mortar world. You can't just go into a store and take something. You can't just go into a gallery and take a photograph and then duplicate the photograph and sell it. Those things are all illegal. Counterfeit warehouses are raided all the time and no one makes a peep. This is really no different. The fact that it is happening online does not make it somehow sacred. We need to get past that and come up with some reasonable legal solutions. We also need to stop the flow of money to these folks. If you take away the financial incentive for piracy, you're going to go a long way to diminishing the volume of piracy that exists. People like to make money illegally. And piracy offers a very convenient, very efficient way to do just that. Take away the money flow, and you'll get rid of a lot of the pirates. Also, obviously, as some have said, we need to continue to develop new distribution methods. The legitimate distribution world has moved online, so we have to find options. We just signed with a new up-and-coming VOD delivery service, Busk Films, out of Vancouver, Canada, and have our film available worldwide now for video on demand, and it's subtitled in several different languages, so we can accommodate those fans who want to see it and are willing to pay a few dollars to do so, give up their latte for a day and support a creative artist. We also need to educate the end user, not demonize them. I think that's been a real problem, and I think if people can appreciate, the work that goes into some of this content that they're consuming, that if you make it available to them at low cost and efficiently, that they will be willing to pony up a few bucks in order to watch that work. Speak up and speak out. Together we can make a difference.